Alright guys, so we have Duels of Runeterra number 14 that just passed, and I am here to bring you all the sweet tournament footage and gameplay. Going to be giving you all of day 2, so round 8, round 9, top 16, the whole shebang. As always, if you guys are new to the channel, do not forget to subscribe so you get notified, or turn on the bell so you get notified when all these videos go up. So first up, we got Uragirinomo. Not sure if we pronounced that right during the entire cast, but versus Rattlingbones, who Rattlingbones is the name that we have seen before in Duels of Runeterra and multiple other tournaments. Ura deciding to go with a lineup of TF Swain, Endure Spider, and Yas Karma. So actually running Yasuo, 2 of Yasuo, 2 of Karma, 2 of Ezreal. So very interesting deck that we do get to see play here as well, as it is not banned out. And on the side of Rattlingbones, we got Swain Lux, we got Endure Spiders again, and then Ezreal Twisted Fate. So already starting the day off, seeing a lot of Endure Spider decks. We'll see if that deck is the new deck of the format, so to speak. See if it'll make it all the way to the finals here. So without further ado, let's get into round 8 of day 2, the Swiss rounds, Rattlingbones versus, we're going to go with Ura, so I don't have to say that entire name again.
No, they're playing Endure Spiders and Twisted Fate Swain.
So we actually have 2 people right now with 0 mid-range Frostbite. So we're already off to a good start. This is a great day already.
We did it, everybody. We did it. This is why they're in the X2 bracket.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so if we start actually casting the 7 and O's, we're going to have some issues, right?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
Oh, man. Looks like, all right, so we are queuing up right now. Looks like Bones is going to start with the Swain Lux deck. Not sure what the bans ended up being, but we're going to go ahead and jump on over to some gameplay. So let's get this rocking and rolling.
All right, I'm excited to see what Uragirinomo has started off with. Show me the money. Endure Spiders. Oh, we get the Ezreal deck.
Yeah, we do. Let's go.
All right, so that I would assume that means Endure Spiders was banned. You never banned Twisted Fate Swain, right? Like that deck's good, but I don't think it's something I would ever ban.
Yeah, I don't think it's something you would ever ban either. So I'd be curious to see what it does end up being. We'll see here, obviously, once we get into the next game. But interesting matchup to get started. So this is pretty sick. We are going to go ahead and see this Swain deck take on Yasuo, and this will be one hell of an interesting matchup.
So this is going to be a little difficult for us because when Shit and I tried to cast Swain Lux, it was banned out indefinitely. We never actually got a chance to see the gameplay of it. And then I know on Fight Night they were saying that the deck never actually picked up a win on stream. So this is not a deck we're actually very experienced with, despite the fact that it's been around for a couple of weeks at this point. But it plays pretty similarly to the Thresh Lux, which, by the way, has completely fallen off the map to the wayside. I have not seen Thresh Lux at all.
Thresh Lux who? What is that?
PBG, we're bored of your last meta innovation. Give us another one.
Well, we'll see what he's playing today. I haven't taken a look at his lineup yet, but I am sure with him being X-1 right now, he is looking at being in yet another top 16. So we'll see how these last 2 rounds of Swiss end up panning out here as we start with the Vanguard Sergeant on the side of Rattlingbones.
Oh, Geronimo, don't get greedy. There are so many times I see players overcommit resources to trying and get a chem punk through, and it doesn't work pretty much any % of the time. If you're a Garon, okay, I like the attack. It recognizes that you're offering up the trade. If you go for like a Thermo Beam here, I think there are better Thermo Beam targets in a Swain deck, and you're just going to get blown up by a Culling Strike.
Culling Strike, I think, is like MVP of the meta right now. That card with like 5 mana, kill any unit with an Ice Veil Archer. Yeah, that feels pretty good in my book. So just overall, one of the better cards in the meta, and it's just very slowly but surely creeped its way up to being just that, because when the game first started, I think a lot of people kind of glossed over it at first. I
think the problem was there were so many 4-attack units in the format. I think, God, was Kinku Lifeblade a 3/3 or was it a 2/3 at the start?
Oh, don't even remember. Jesus. I think it was... Wait, it's a 2/2 now, right? So I think it might have actually been a 3/3, if you can believe that.
In which case an Omen Hawk buff puts it out of range, or a back-to-back. There were just, I think back-to-back being really cheap also kind of influenced the playability of this card for a while, but we've seen it come up a lot. And speaking of coming up a lot, I feel like we have very consistently seen these Karma Ezreal players have absolutely no problem finding that Chump Wump on 4. One of the weaknesses you should be able to exploit against this deck is their lack of units, but I mean, the decks aren't playing a lot of units. They're playing less units than they used to, but they don't seem to have any problem finding them lately.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like, I feel like somebody said it about Omen Hawk too. They're like, the percentage chance that your opponent doesn't have Omen Hawk on turn 1, 0. Like, they're always going to have it. But then I feel like when you're the one playing it, you never get the card. So we always see it when we're watching and casting. But then when I go play a Chump Wump deck, where's my Chump Wump when I need it, man?
So I like this Swain over the Grizzled Ranger. Really, the only thing you're going to be worried about at this point is either a stun effect or a thermo beam, and stun really stops you either way. You're not floating the mana. I feel like you might as well throw down the Swain. And if you get a thermo beam, you get thermo beamed. At least your opponent is out of spell mana while you hang on to a little bit for your Lux turn. They'll have absolutely no answer for that.
Yeah, thermo beam is it's such a difficult card to play around because it's just going to happen eventually. So you basically just have to plan for, okay, who am I sacrificing to the thermo beam, or how am I going to get my opponent to blow a thermo beam so I can play what I want to play? And we do see that one, like you said, come down on the Swain to get rid of it, and we'll see if Rattling here, if Bones is able to get another Swain to stick.
Speaking of sticking, there is still one Will of Ionia in the deck for Uragirinomo. I know that's a card we've seen really fall off in the Karma Ezreals. Most are playing 0, some are still playing 1, but that is available, and that's an important tool for dealing with Swain decks.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up Uragirinomo's list right now. I want to see exactly some of the choices he decided to make with this deck. But one thing I do want to mention, all right, it just randomly stuck out to me. This Lee Sin background, kind of digging it. I like the flying kick Lee Sin that we got here. This is pretty sick.
I was a big fan of this board when it came out, but I was like, no, there'll be a better board coming. And then the Spirit Blossom stuff happened. I'm like, yeah, I was right.
All right, yeah, so we got 2 Yasuo, 2 Karma, 2 Ezreal, 3 Deep Med, 1 Will of Ionia. Apparently this website is still not updated with the 5 mana instead of 4 mana. Static Shock at 2, 3 Concussive Palm, 3 Steel Tempest. And, now is that why this is a possibility now? Like, is that why we are seeing the possibility of an Ezreal Yasuo Karma deck, is because the Steel Tempest is now 2 mana?
Outside of Swain Yasuo, this is as many stuns as a deck is going to run, right? You've got Yone. I mean, like, 1 Yone, 2 Steel Tempest, 3 Concussive Palm is the standard, and that is in total 7 stuns.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot. It just feels bad that, like, Yasuo, what kind of stinks, I guess, with Yasuo, at least with, personally, in my opinion, since the game has started, Noxus is kind of like the only region you're forced into pairing with Yasuo just because it's the only other region with a lot of stuns. And so when you do pair it with something like Ezreal, like you said, this is the most stuns you're going to have, and it's actually not even as many as you could have playing it in something like a Swain deck. So I'm curious to see if what he is running with the 2 Yone, with the 1 Mina, does work out. We saw Mina in another Karma Ezreal deck. It didn't seem to do too hot against Deep. We saw it played a couple times against some Deep monsters, returning those big sea monsters to their opponent's hand, but it didn't really always seem to be the best decision in that scenario.
The one thing I'm a little curious about is the fact that this Karma got thrown down so early when Uragirinomo is only playing 2 copies of the card.
Wait, who's playing 2 copies?
Uragirinomo.
Of what?
Karma.
Yeah.
And he threw down an on-curve Karma.
So this is, all right, is it me, or are we suddenly seeing a lot of Karmas come out a lot earlier than usual?
I mean, okay, that was something that we saw yesterday one time, and now we're seeing it again, but I mean, it is interesting. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that Yasuo in a deck like this, even if you don't level the Yasuo or get full value out of the stuns, he's still a 4/4 with quick attack, which is not something to be underestimated.
I'm taking a look here. I'm just seeing, like, what maybe prompted him to play that Karma. I'm trying to think. I mean, there's 2 Concerted Strikes. There's 3 single combat. That Karma's pretty vulnerable to just about everything. Unless Yura is legit just putting Bones on not having any Concerted Strikes or single combats, or maybe he's trying to bait one out.
He had to have, right? Because that Karma came down the same turn as the Lux. A single combat would have been a complete blowout, as Uragirinomo was tapped out at that point, and the Lux would have just lost her barrier. That could have been an insane play. Now we're going to see Steel Tempest down onto the Grizzled Ranger. No Yasuo on board to get sort of the full value out of that, though. In this situation, I think it would actually be worse to have Yasuo on board, as the Badger Bear would then get to pop out for your opponent.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And unfortunately for Yura, too, I mean, we do see the Concerted Strike being topped on the following turn. So if Yura was putting Bones on not having those in his hand, he is going to be sorely mistaken here in a couple turns. And yeah, if this Concerted Strike does come out on the Karma, it's going to be a little bit of an issue only having the 2 Karma in this deck as opposed to running all 3. Wow, that's terrible.
Man, Lux's Prismatic Barrier is... You're never going to put Prismatic Barrier in a deck, but oh boy does Lux's Prismatic Barrier come up.
Yeah, wow. That is like 8 mana for 3. I'll take that trade. Wow.
And now we're even going to see Uragirinomo sacrifice the Eye of the Dragon to take 3 less damage. But you don't have an answer for that Leviathan. You're down 2 Thermo Beams. There's only 1 Will of Ionia in your deck, and I think that's one of the big reasons that we've seen Swain decks come to the forefront of the meta is the lack of PZ Ionia means that there are a lot less Thermo Beam Will of Ionia decks running around, and with less Will of Ionias in those decks in general, Thermo Beam is really your only answer to Swain and Leviathan.
Yeah, where you see the Leviathan start to do the damage, and now, like, if this Leviathan doesn't get dealt with, Yura's just kind of screwed, because this is now putting Yura on a clock to have to deal with it, and having used that Thermo Beam, I mean, you literally just need another Thermo Beam at this point, which puts you out of mana, which I don't even know if that's really going to do it for you, because then you just lose so much tempo.
If you Thermo Beam this Leviathan right here, I'm pretty sure you actually die to Final Spark.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and then you're out of mana. Your opponent can get a Final Spark this turn, and probably, yeah, and easily next turn.
Yeah, well, they can Final Spark and remove the unit in response so that you take the full 4 damage.
Yep.
One thing, so Uragirinomo is actually able to hold on to this Karma from turn 6 all the way to turn 10, but I haven't really been keeping track. I'm pretty sure this Ezreal is sitting at like 2 targets.
Now, it's all right. So it's interesting too, and I don't want your thought on this. Why is Bones not dealing with the Karma?
I think because he understands that he can just win the game a lot more proactively. The Leviathan was a big damage push for him. And I think Uragirinomo might have played a little bit too greedy with the card and not blocking the Lux, because now he is facing down lethal as this Death's Hand does come down onto this Dragonling. That'll put Uragirinomo at 3, and then as soon as the turn ends, Rattlingbone's going to take this game with the Leviathan. Could even go for a Final Spark Culling Strike combo here onto the Eye of the Dragon to go for lethal.
I mean, do you do that with your opponent possibly having a deny here?
I mean, then you just end the turn and you win the game because of
Leviathan's still on the field.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I guess it really doesn't matter at this point. I think Bones will just be able to take it away. Okay, this helps. Okay, that helps more.
And now you still have the Final Spark Culling Strike.
It's funny that in both instances, like how we saw the Culling Strike used and how we were talking about using the Culling Strike to like get more damage from the Final Spark, it was 2 ways that you're usually not going to use that card. Like you won't. Usually, you're just going to kill a unit with that card. So it's really interesting for anybody who's watching that might be new to the game. You really got to think about some of the different ways that you can use certain cards. It's very specific in the way they're worded. Culling Strike does not specify your opponent's unit or an enemy unit. You can also use it on your own unit or follower or whoever if it does benefit you for some reason. That's exactly what we saw there from Bones.
I actually thought he was going to use the Concerted Strike because it does deal 2 instances of damage. The first one would remove the barrier, and the second one would kill the unit. I also had to check to make sure there wasn't a Spirit's Refuge in the main that I missed. It was randomly created by the Karma, but with Yasuo in the deck, I didn't think it was totally out of the question, as that is something we consistently see out of Yasuo decks.
All right, so we are seeing good old Endur going up against the Ezreal Yas Karma deck again. And we'll see.
How do you feel about these Ice Veil Archers in the Endor decks?
Okay. Well, all right, so I'm not going to lie. This is actually the first time I've seen Ice Veil Archer in the Endure decks lately. Have you seen it before in any of the other lineups?
Silver Fuse played it in the Fight Night.
I don't know. I don't really, personally, I don't like it. I think that the way to play Endure is to go all in on Endure. Like, that's the point of it. That's your win con, right? Like, Ice Veil doesn't give you anything towards your win con other than it stalls out a little bit. Like, you can live a little bit longer, you can deny one of your opponent's attack turns, frostbiting something, but yeah, personally I don't really like it for this type of deck.
I think that it gets a lot of value in the mirror if you can frostbite your opponent's Endor, and the plan was that both of you were going to attack and trade your Endors. That can be massive.
Yeah, mirror match I got to agree with. So I guess the question is, how popular are we thinking Endure actually is again? Because it has started to become much more popular in the last couple of weeks or so.
It was played by 3 out of 5 or 3 out of 8 of the players at Fight Night. So I mean, it's really creeping in there. It's about 40% of the meta. I think at this point, I'd be really curious to see if there's anybody who is playing if anybody is not playing either Endure Spiders or Frostbite midrange at this point. I know there's a couple of NAB players out there, but I really think those are like the big 3 Freljord decks, and I don't think anybody has really cut Freljord out of their lineup in recent memory.
Well, so do you ever... I guess that's my issue too. Like, I don't think... So if there were going to be more mirror matches, I'd say sure, Iceveil Archer is a decent choice. But I don't think Endure, now with mid-range Frostbite being so prevalent and just so damn good, I don't think Endure is ever going to get to the point where it was previously, maybe a couple months ago, where basically everybody had it in their lineup. Like, I feel like you can't... It's not so easy to just be like, I'm not going to play mid-range Frostbite. That's a crappy deck. I'll just go with Endure instead. Like, it's not a crappy deck. It's a really good choice.
I do think, personally, I prefer going Endure Spiders because I really like Swain decks at the moment. Okay. I think that they're very well poised in the meta, and I really like the idea of committing my Noxus elsewhere while not having a weak Freljord deck.
Well, we'll see if Bones is able to take it home here with this version of Endure. Like you said, playing the 3 Iceveil Archer, has the 2 copies of 2 copies of Atrocity, as well as 1 Vengeance and 3 Fury of the North in here. So lots of potential for some big OTK turns. Get the typical self-harm stuff in there as well with Bark Beast and Cursed Keeper.
All right, here's a question. How long until we see Endure Spiders playing Fading Memories?
Can you not?
All I'm saying, I throw down my Endure, you go Vengeance, and I go, what's up, sucker? Fading Memories. I'm atrocitying this next turn anyway.
I mean, honestly, you know what? Honestly, because I've seen it teched in basically, like anybody running Shadow Isles now, they now consider Fading Memories just because now it's like a thing ever since it was played in the Ezreal deck. So I'm actually surprised we haven't seen more of it in Endure. I think that Ezreal decks can obviously make the most use of it, but I think that Endure would be the next best deck to put it in. So I'm actually surprised that that's the deck we haven't seen it in a whole lot yet.
You do have a lot of very good enter the battlefield abilities in Endure that you would like to reuse. You know, Bladed Caretaker, even getting an ephemeral Cursed Keeper doesn't necessarily sound like a bad thing.
No, all of it. Yeah, Bladed Caretaker is an amazing ephemeral, Cursed Keeper, even Avarician Sentry, Omen Hawk. You are getting value off of almost every one of your units if you were to memories them. So I'm actually surprised to not see it in a lot of these Endure decks.
And I think I like it more than I necessarily like Haunted Relic, which is a card that we're seeing players kind of flip-flop on at the moment. There aren't any in Bones' list here. Do you have any thoughts on that one? You know, that auto-level Callista?
I hate that card. All right, I like that people started playing it because it was an underplayed card, because I'm always for underplayed cards getting played. But that card literally has, like, I guess technically 2 purposes, because you're also feeding the They Who Endure. But it seems like such a gimmicky, like, okay, I'm literally just spending 2 mana to get 2 things. +3 and +3/3 on my They Who Endure and a level Callista, if you're actually playing it with a level Callista. And I just think that it's very linear as far as that's concerned, where you could put other things in your deck for just, you know, overall supporting of the strategy, as opposed to just this card does one thing and one thing only. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that card either.
Leveling Callista is a very good thing, but I do have to agree with you. I think that I liked it for a while, but the card felt really bad anytime that you weren't actually leveling the Callista. Now I can understand it a little bit more. In the last meta, we were in a very like overwhelmed and elusive heavy kind of format. Wall effects like Haunted Relic didn't get a lot of value. Nowadays, I could kind of see it a little bit more. But what I'm seeing right here is Bladed Caretaker doing Bladed Caretaker things. God, this card is so good. I love how much it has found a home in the Endure Spiders. And it's really weird because it seemed like a Maokai card for so long, and it has just blown people out of the water with how good it is with Cursed Keeper.
I mean, it seemed like a Maokai card because it has saplings. So, I mean, that's literally, you see sapling, you're like, Maokai. But speaking of Callista leveling, we were just talking about that. So, as an example, I think Bladed Caretaker does that job astronomically better than Haunted Relic. Haunted Relic is such a, like, passive defensive card, whereas Bladed Caretaker is a very offensive, like, active card. Now, yeah, you kind of get blown out by something like Withering Wail, but we're in a meta where not a whole lot of people play that. We have seen it starting to pop up a little bit more, but I don't think it matters enough where it's not a good card. I mean, look at the freaking value right here. Look at the situation that Bones is putting Yura in. He's trading with almost his entire board, and he gets his They Who Endure increased. His Callista, I mean, is stunned, so she's just going to sit there and live and chill for a little bit. But such good value compared to something like a Haunted Relic.
And I think that's why we see the full-on attack out of Rattling Bones. It didn't seem like a super great attack. Anytime your opponent has the Dragonling, you'd probably rather just let that die. But with 2 Endure, I think you're pretty inclined to play one on curve, and I believe it's now up to an 8/8.
Yeah, 8/8, and he's still chilling with a Callista and a Bark Beast on the field. He has 2 Endure and Atrocity, so I can kind of see Bones' head swaying back and forth a little bit. Maybe he's jamming to music, I don't know, but I think he's a little happy right now because when you got 2 Endure and you've already made it to turn 7 and the Atrocity in hand, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion you're going to be able to win because your opponent's going to have to deal with the first one with some sort of resources. And once you get those resources out with that first one, the second one's just going to be a no-brainer, good to go.
Yeah, one of the big things right now is that if Bones plays an Endure right now, Thermo Beam doesn't kill it.
Yeah, yep, 7 mana. Feels bad, man, for Ura. It looks like he is considering that. There's thought to be put into just passing because Ura has the Mystic Shot, but I don't think he gains... Like, there's nothing at 7 or 6 mana that he could play that would affect this They Who Endure, versus passing. So I think it's perfectly fine to go ahead and play it here.
Agreed. And with no 3 damage effects in Uragirinomo's deck, no gotchas, no get exciteds, it's not like he can string together a couple of those next turn after throwing the Mystic Shot onto this
probably the
They
Callista.
Who Endure. Yeah, Callista makes a bit of sense here.
Yeah, because, like, all right, I think that pretty much shows, too, on the side of Ura that he either can't deal with the Endure or is going to stun it / recall it for a while. And, so he's going to go ahead and deal with the Callista because he did have the double Mystic Shot there. So that is pretty good for Ura. But, yeah, I'm thinking kind of with those 2 Mystic Shots on the Callista, this They Who Endure might just be getting a pretty big attack in here in a second. Oh, man, and the Sejuani, man. I mean, he might not even need Atrocity this game. He might just be able to do enough overwhelm damage.
Probably. It's not actually often that we see the Atrocity Endure come out. At least the last time that we saw Endure Spiders pretty heavily, it was really just play Endure on curve. Oh yeah, this card's really hard to deal with, and I will continuously attack you with it until it eventually sticks and you die.
Now, I wonder, too, on the side of Ura, Bones playing the Sejuani puts him very crucially below 6 mana, which means Atrocity can't come out. So I wonder if on the side of Ura, if he's thinking that he wouldn't have made that play unless he had another They Who Endure in his hand, knowing that if he deals with the current one, it's going to come down. I don't know even if he is reading that on the side of Bones, if that even helps him. Because I think knowing it just means it's more of a chance you're going to lose anyways. But we do start to see so many stuns come out.
Ooh, that's going to be an Ezreal level.
Yep. This is going to be interesting. Yeah.
And with Geronimo still at 20 life, only a few cards in hand, but if there's something like a Karma and a Rummage in there, we could just see lethal on the next turn from Geronimo, although I do think it is pretty unlikely unless he specifically has Karma Rummage or Karma Deep Meditation.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, right? Because the way that Ura's deck is built is all recall and stun for the most part because it is going the Yasuo route, and that is kind of a little bit of a counter to They Who Endure because nothing else. I don't think Ura's going to really kill anything else. Like, he didn't kill anything last turn. He's not going to kill anything this turn. So this They Who Endure in Bones' hand is not going to get bigger, and it's not going to get big enough to deal 20 damage.
I mean, if we see Mina Swiftfoot here,
that's legit. That's pretty.
That's a disastrous attack for Geronimo.
Wait. Okay. Oh, here it is. All right. Quick question on an interaction with this They Who Endure. I think I know the answer. I just want to make sure. Does recalling the They Who Endure reset it as a 1/1, and now it needs stuff to die again to get stronger?
No, it isn't. It is a summon effect to get +1/+1 for every unit that died this game. It just shows you in hand so that you don't have to manually keep track.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. All right. That's what was confusing, right? Because it does show you in hand. So
yeah, a lot of people get confused. While it's in your hand, it is always a 1/1.
It's just previewing what's to come.
Yeah, it's helping you out.
So, wow, and we see the Atrocity ends up having to get used on the Ezreal, which I do think is smart. I think he played it at the perfect time on the side of Bones, right? I mean, you see the Mina come out. That's a very big mana commitment on the side of Ura, which gives the window for Bones to go ahead and use that Atrocity on something worth using it on, which a leveled Ezreal falls in that category, I think.
Yeah, if that Ezreal had survived, this would have been probably game over for Bones here in game one. I think it's going to be a little bit too long before he can get his indoors back online with the atrocity to actually present lethal in a meaningful way. Sejuani, of course, a good counter to the attack coming out of Geronimo, but has to actually block the Chempunk Pickpocket, can't save damage. The spells in Rattlingbones' deck are just too impactful to give over to Geronimo.
Yeah, and look, we even got people in chat soup for Mina. I like it. I love it. I like seeing Mina. It's been a long time coming. She's finally seeing some play. Not quite in the deck. You know, man, I really want Yasuo decks to be good, man. And they just never can quite get there. One day, that's the dream. And we do see this 10-10 Endure come down, though. So we are getting somewhere with some big Endures here, but some more draw out on the side of Yura. This is very much going back and forth for both players. It's anybody's game, I think, at this point. If Bones is able to draw an Atrocity, he's in a pretty good spot. If Yura is able to draw an Ezreal, I think he's in a pretty good spot. So we'll see who's able to draw a little bit better here over the next couple of turns.
I'm hard-pressed to say who is favored in a matchup like this because on the one hand, Geronimo is heavily disadvantaged by playing Yasuo instead of 3 copies of Karma and 3 copies of Ezreal. On the other hand, because he's playing Yasuo, he has so many more stun effects than a typical Karma Ezreal deck, and that plays out really well into Endure. He is already down 1 Ezreal, though. That's very critical. Geronimo only has 1 Ezreal left in his deck.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a Karma yet, so there is still 2 Karma left. And I guess, so, in a deck like this, is there an alternate win condition if Ezreal and Karma don't get off? Like, are you able to just kind of out-tempo your opponent with a Yasuo early game, or is there, like, a different way of winning?
There are matchups where Yasuo can take over the game. This is not one of them.
Well, yeah, I could have told you that. This matchup in particular, yeah, it's almost like a lot of the removal in this matchup, it's not really going to do much on the side of Yura. The stuns really help him, but again, he needs this Ezreal Karma combo in order to kind of combat whatever possible atrocity comes out. We do have 4, 8. Oh, okay, so you actually can't play 2 Fury of the Norths with 1 atrocity. So that's kind of unfortunate, I guess. I'm just trying to think of some particular line that Bones could possibly take for the game here, and we see one of the Icevale archers we were talking about earlier come out.
Yeah, I think Geronimo is going to try to go wide with 6 attack units at this point. You know, get the Yones out, get the Mina out, get maybe a leveled Yasuo, and that does represent a lot of combat damage. And if you can get Yone down while a couple of those are on field, stun out some of the bigger blockers from Bones, you can try and push through for lethal. But I think the Frostbite effects out of Bones, like the Sejuani and the Icevale archer, make that pretty difficult. This is just not a matchup where a 5/5 quick attack really matters. There are just units that can straight up block and kill that.
So I think you're right. I think he's going to go wide here. It looks like he's playing the second They Who Endure. This is a big board, and as we all know, Karma Ezreal does not deal with wide boards very well, especially when they're big wide boards. So the other thing, though, I think is that with this wide board, I think he might just try to push for game next turn, really because he's got 2 Fury of the Norths in hand. So when Yura probably stuns something on this attack, whatever's not stunned will likely get a Fury of the North popped on top. And yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see. I'm bad at quick math. We all know that. So I don't know if he actually if there's 1 stun. I think Yura needs 2 stuns to avoid lethal, right?
We've seen a lot of stuns come out already as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've saw, 2 Steel Tempest and 3 Concussives?
Yeah.
That sounds about right. And we've seen a Mina, and we've seen a Yone. So there's only 1 Yone and a Steel Tempest left?
So it looks like 1 stun will actually protect the life total. If you're going to live at 6, then 1 stun would put you at 11, and 2 Fury of the North is not going to add 11 damage.
Okay, well, let's see if he's at the 1.
I mean, Geronimo gets to hang on, but with only 1 Ezreal left in the deck and 2 Karmas, I feel like you've just put yourself at a disadvantage in this Endure Spider type matchup. You know, are you ever actually going to be able to win this game? You don't really have the combo pieces to assemble, and I think throwing out the mushrooms here is more or less a concession. I
agree. Putting it on the Sejuani makes sense. Now, do you risk though? Is Yura just baiting? Is he baiting? Is this the 5,000 head play to bait out both Furies of the North?
You always have to consider it when your opponent doesn't concede on the lethal attack.
Yep.
Even if they make plays like throwing out the mushroom clouds, that feels like a concession. That just could be a 10,000 IQ bait.
Which would work. I mean, so right here, one stun saves the game. No matter what he stuns, really. As long as he doesn't stun the Spiderling, then he should be good. He can stun the 5/5. He can stun the Sejuani. Okay. That's not quite it. And it looks like Bones taking it home 2-0 to Ura. Gonna go ahead and advance to, I believe, 6-2, right? So
yep.
Very much still in consideration for the top 16 here. And yeah, super interesting first game of the day here, round 8. Seeing a little bit of a different deck in the Yasuo. Same thing, right? They're brothers, it's fine. Yasuo, Karma, and Ezreal deck. And then some more They Who Endure popping up. All right, and congrats to Rattling Bones. Will he be able to make it into the top 16? We will find out as we continue to go through day 2. Next video up will be round 9. So again, do not forget to turn on the bell. And as always, everybody, stay healthy, stay positive. I hope shit just works for you, and peace out.